Hello, welcome to knowyoursteel.com. Today we are going to talk about the various factors that one has to keep in mind while selecting a steel mill as a supplier. There are various factors that one has to probe into while considering a steel mill. These are broadly can be classified into the macro and the micro factors. And today I'm going to emphasize more on the macro factors that one has to look into as how these steel mills fare well on these factors, and then base their decision on these factors. If we look at the macro factors, the first thing that comes is the backward integration. Today, many steel plants across the world is struggling in terms of the cost of production and the iron ore linkages, the coal linkages. So the more backward integrated the steel mill is, so the more competitive they will be, and they'll survive on a long run. Because there are a lot of vagaries today in the metallics market. For example, there are only 2-3 big iron ore companies in the world that dominate, and so the companies which have their own mines, be it iron ore or coal, in India both are pretty important, and I think this situation is the same elsewhere as well. So if the backward integration is there, plus the mill should be completely integrated, which means they should start from either iron ore. It can be either a blast furnace based, or it can be either the spongian based. But if it starts from scrap, then that becomes an issue, because scrap is high, and scrap prices are high at times, and there are chances of tramp elements getting into the steel, and so that is not a very cost efficient as well as a quality way of producing steel. So the backward integration is very important. If the steel mill you're looking at is completely backward integrated, then that's a strength. And then the second point is the mines, which in it can be overlapping, the first and second points. But mines, as I said earlier, that are one of key factors for any steel plant. Today, one of the lowest cost producing steel in the world is Tata Steel, which has all the linkages, be it iron ore or coal, and also the location where it's situated, where the labor cost is lower. So iron ore mines and coal mines, overall the captive mines are pretty important for a steel mill to survive on a long run and be competitive, and then electricity, in developing countries like India, and of course in many third world countries, the cost of electricity is very high, the cost of power is very high. So if the steel plant has, for example, blast furnace or the spongian plant, they can make use of the waste gases coming out of these plants to produce power, the thermal power. And also, if they have their own iron or their own coal linkages, their own mines, or if they can buy cheaper coal, then they can have their own power plants. So this significantly reduces their dependency on the state or the country electricity board, and in turn reduces their cost of power, because steel plants consume quite a lot of power, be it irrespective of the the route they produce. And I come across some mills that even sell the excess power to the government, so that can be the additional source of revenue as well. And the other factors are the political situation, the current political situation, the political stability of the area or the city or the country in which the steel plant is located. There can be chances that one can develop the steel mill, and and all of a sudden the democracy has been thrown out, or there are riots. Today we're witnessing quite a lot of unrest in the Middle East. So if somebody has developed a mill in the Middle East with a lot of efforts and time, and then if you're not able to get proper supplies from them because of the unrest, then all the tasks are in vain. So one has to see what is the political system prevailing in that particular region, and then make their own assessment. And another factor which goes into the consideration of steel mills is pollution control and the sustainability. Today, we are all talking about carbon credits and how to reduce the emissions and how to reduce the emission of the greenhouse gases. So pollution is quite serious. What we are witnessing in China is this serious issue that the cities like Beijing and Shanghai are extremely polluted, and one of the attributes to that is thanks to the quite a few old mills that are running in their Hebei province, and a few days ago there was an article saying that the decision has been taken to close some of the mills. So the steel mills, which are pretty old, are prone to pollute more, and they are prone to get closed. So one has to look into what is the age of the facilities and how old is it, and how clean it is, and what is the impact of their production in the environment, and how sustainable it is. By saying sustainability is how environmental concerned is the mill is, and how responsible are they for their environment, and do they have plans to reduce emissions, do they use energy efficient processes, energy efficient materials, and do they reuse. Today steel is the number one material in terms of recycling. Steel can be 100% recycled. So how much of their own internal production leftover are reused by the steel plant for producing the fresh steel. So all these things have to be taken into consideration, and today it's pretty simple to do this, because there are some indexes available for anybody to look at. One such index can be Dow Jones, and which gives where the company ranks in terms of the sustainability, so which clearly throws light on the environmental concern for the responsibility of the steel mill. Another important factor, of course, is a stable management. If, for example, if the company has a history of changing hands, if it's been taken over by somebody and it's sold to somebody, then it's highly unlikely that you're going to get continuous support from that steel mill. So one has to look at how stable is the management, and are they here for a long run, and what are the vision and mission statements. Where do they see themselves in few years down the line, and what are their value systems, and how does this values and the mission statements percolates in the employees at all levels, and how do they want to carry out this mission, and by what means they don't want to do it. So these are pretty important, because this can be looked at as a paper based or bookish thing, but I sincerely believe that a company which builds their vision and mission in a proper way can reach success. So this also can be an important factor while selecting your vendor partner, that's while selecting a steel. And of course the other important factor which is common for many mills is how financially sound the company is, and what discipline do they exhibit in their balance sheets, to their creditors. So the credit rating of the company, that can be a good tool for somebody to look at how the company is performing, how are they leveraging their working capital, and how best they are making utilization of their funds and stuff like that. So the company should be financially strong, and otherwise you're at risk as a customer if you trust them. Then if they go bankrupt, then all your efforts go in vain. Okay, let's look at the next factor is very important, which is the safety, what sort of safety standards that the steel mills exhibit. Steel plants can be pretty dangerous if the safety standards are not being met with, because there can be many accidents. Even in India, there was an accident in the eastern part of the country, which resulted in closure of the blast furnace. The pollution control board had ordered the closure of the blast furnace. So it's pretty important to know how safety is being looked at by the company, and also it can be a parameter. You can gauge how important the employees are for the employer. How they take care of the employees. So that's an important aspect. And if the company is accredited to the OSAS 18001 certification, then that's a good benchmark for to assess the company on the basis of the safety. And another point is the location of the steel plant, its proximity with respect to port, its proximity with respect to the mines. And if a steel plant, if you design a steel plant which is in a landlocked country, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get all your material in time. And so it is pretty important to see where the steel plant is located, and if it's pretty closer, and then what is the means of transport. Is it closer to the port, or is it closer to the major financial commercial hubs, and stuff like that, and how far away it is from the mines. If the mines are pretty far away, for example, the iron ore mines and the coal mines are pretty far away, then that would add up to their cost, and they may not be very economical for the steel mill, and their cost of production will go up, and eventually that will take a hit on their competitiveness. So some of these factors can be common for different industries, but I think these are very important for steel industry than any other, because steel industry today is suffering from many of these factors, and I'm sure for many big companies who have a long-term working attribute, that attitude, then it's clearly important, because they invest money, they invest time in developing a source, and when they develop a source, they want the source to be partnering with them on the long term. So, and I hope these factors which I mentioned, the macro factors, will help you to in deciding a source. And in the next edition, we will look at the micro factors that would help in selecting a steel mill. If you have any queries, please send your queries to madhu@knowyoursteel.com, or you can leave your comments. I will get back to you. See you soon. Thanks.